is Jets at Noon with Cameron Poitras and Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Paul, what does it feel like waking up in the morning knowing that you could win the Stanley Cup?
I think you asked me that 4 times last year. It feels just fine, thank you.
Where does he come up with this stuff? Paul Maurice, their head coach of the Florida Panthers.
This is the thing, right? Like, people always ask me. It's not rehearsed. He doesn't know what question's coming.
No.
So people are like, oh, he's so eloquent, and you media get transcended by him or something, or in a trance. I'm like, no, he doesn't know what questions are coming. Now, he probably has an idea that today somebody's likely going to ask him. Mm-hmm. But that's off the cuff, right? I think he's just generally a humorous person.
Do you think that he's really like sitting in the back room and like preparing what he's going to say? I don't think so at all. I think he's focused on the game tonight.
If you ever talk to Paul Maurice, like on the side, that's how he talks too. Like, he's always trying to be humorous and stuff, and not trying, but he just is, right? Mm-hmm. I got a little bit surprised. I've told you yesterday, my dad's an Oiler fan.
Yes.
He's 90 years old, lives in Lethbridge. And I was talking to him on Father's Day with my mother, and he was like, what'd you think of the hockey game last night? And I said, I loved it. I loved every minute of it. And he was like, oh, Jim. But then I go, so you don't like the Panthers at all? I go, look, I like Maurice. I think it would be great if Nate Schmidt won a Stanley Cup. But I said, if Ryan Nugent Hopkins and McDavid and Press got one, I go, I whatever. I don't, but he's always been an Oilers fan. I've always been a Flames fan growing up. And he said, I don't like their coach. And I'm like, you don't like Paul Maurice? He goes, I don't know what his name is, but I don't like him. He used to be in Winnipeg. He goes, I don't like him. Smart mouth. Like one of those guys who's smart. I mean, the old adage, I don't know if kids even know what it is anymore, but the word smart aleck, don't be a smart aleck.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't be a smart aleck where he's smart aleck always.
And my dad would call me that all the time. Then he'd say, come here, give you a couture.
And I said to my dad, well, you must love Chris Knobloch then, because I don't even think he says anything, does he?
No, it's very calm.
Who is Chris Knobloch? Nobody knows.
Nobody knows. He has no personality. A man tragically born without a personality.
Is there a coach in the National Hockey League in a Stanley Cup final that you've heard less from?
No.
Like when the networks and maybe even us are running clips from the Stanley Cup finals, it's Maurice, it's Tkachuk, it's Sam Bennett, it's Marchand, it's McDavid, it's Draisaitl, Stewart if you get him in front of a mic. I mean, I know I watched Chris Knobloch's media avail the other day when he was in the hotel. What quote or what clip or there's not a major sports final that you have a more ambiguous, less known, less quote worthy.
Well, I'll say this.
We don't even know who the starting goalie is, and all we know is Chris Knobloch says he's not telling us. We don't even have a clip from him saying that.
Yeah, I mean, it's almost certain that it's Stuart Skinner. He was in the net, and it would be crazy if they didn't start him, to be honest. And no matter what you think of Stuart Skinner, he's got to play in this game tonight. Jets at Noon is brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line wins a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method. 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner later in the program. As we come at you live from the Boston Pizza Studio, try the new Triple Pep Pizza only at Boston Pizza. Just go back to my point before.
Get one tonight for the game.
That sounds like a great idea. I think I might get one. Just to go back to my point that I was making before I just spoke there. When I do the morning sports, I try to find good, juicy clips, particularly, maybe I'll even run 2. It's a major story, Canadian team in the Stanley Cup final. I don't even bother going and listening to Knobloch. Like I prefer to have one coach, both coaches, right? And then a player from each team. That's usually what I like to do. No, not this time.
So I don't know him at all. I've never met him. I do know he used to coach the Kootenay Ice, and I know the former ownership there with the Chenauts.
He's a good coach.
Yeah, with Chenauts. Actually, Dean Chenault's brother Jeff used to run and was the GM with his dad Ed when I was in Cranbrook. Ed was a great stories. But I think I asked him once when he went to Erie and became Connor McDavid's coach. He's like, oh, Chris is a great guy and really good hockey mind and stuff like that. But I don't really. And then he went to the American Hockey League with Hartford, I believe, and that's where he went to Edmonton from there. But I don't, and I'm not bashing him for that. I don't care. Like, everybody's different, but I don't know of like, if this was the Super Bowl, both coaches would be everywhere all the time. If this was the World Series, both managers. If the NBA Finals are going on and you see both coaches nightly, I know you see Knobloch, but what was a quote of this final that stands out to you from Chris Knobloch?
I can't think of anything.
I can't even remember one.
Well, he sort of matches the energy of McDavid, right?
Yes,
McDavid is does not throw out good quotes. Like, if he comes out and he speaks, and I mean, because of who he is, anything that he says has weight to it, and people want to hear what Connor McDavid has to say. But he really never really says too much. It's just not who he is. It's not his personality.
Somebody asked him yesterday about, is there any more pressure on you being the greatest player in the world to sort of get this done, to get a championship? And it's like, well, I don't really think of it that way. He goes, and you can't think of it that way. Nobody thinks of themselves as the greatest player in the world, right?
I don't think.
Except for Evander Kane.
Yeah. I just don't.
Kidding.
I don't think Connor McDavid thinks in that vein at all.
No.
Like, I think he's just a guy who is very driven, obviously naturally talented, but he's earned a lot of that talent as well through putting in immense amounts of hard work in video and all that sort of thing. A guy who's, obsessed with working out, working in the gym, improving, all that sort of stuff. I mean, he has the talent matched with the drive, and can do things that nobody else can do. But I don't think for a second he thinks of himself like that. I think he just wants to win.
And his quote was great. He goes, I don't think of it that way. And he goes, I don't think anybody can think of it that way. He goes, I'm aware, and everybody's aware, this is a big game tonight.
Yeah.
And you have to be ready, and you have to be good. You have to be great in it. But I don't think of it that way, the pressure, because it was a really good quote. The other one we haven't talked about, sorry, quickly.
Yeah, go ahead.
Mark Stewart's on the bench with the Oilers. And he's another guy I would like to see win a cup.
I would. Again, I would love to see.
But not when he gets to his next job.
Yeah, his next job.
Anywhere else.
I would love to see Stu win one, man. I was a big fan of his when he was a member of the Winnipeg
Jets. Really good guy.
A really good dude.
Yeah.
Made Winnipeg his home too as well.
It's a great off-season story when they first moved here, because I would be out on Corridon on a Sunday, like watching something in sports with some buddies, and he would walk in. And he would say, "Hey guys," and he would go sit down, and then he'd sort of come over. And he is a Bears fan, like I am, right? And I'd be at a Bomber game, and he would walk over and say, "Hey Jim, how you doing?" I'm like, "What are you doing here? Like, don't you go home?" And he's like, "I don't have a home." Like, what does that mean? And he said, he goes, "I have my parents and I think he has two sisters, but he has one or two sisters in Minneapolis." And he said, "So when I left Boston, like, I didn't have a house in Boston, and went to Atlanta, and then they came here." And he said, "So what I do is I go home and see my parents for 3 to 4 weeks. And then I'll go see my sister for a week or two and my other one." And then he's just like, we can tell when I'm overstaying my welcome, and I just come back to Winnipeg. He's like, "I don't know why would I go, are you going to buy a home here?" He's like, "Well, if I get another contract, maybe." But so he just rented, right? So he's like, that's his summer off season would be going maybe a couple of weeks with mom and dad, a week or two with each sister, and then come home, and he would just be here and go to Bomber games and stuff.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. So what about tonight's game? Like, if there's a defining thing about Game 6 here, well, I'll ask you this, Jim, but to me, this game tonight, if this series is going back to Edmonton for a decisive Game 7, this game's about Edmonton, as far as I'm concerned, right? So the Panthers have been an incredibly consistent team throughout this series. They've almost period to period, almost entirely. Of course, they've missed a couple in there, but from period to period, like almost 100% of it, they've been exactly the same every single game, every single shift. Edmonton has not been that. And so, to me, this game is about the Oilers elevating themselves. And it's a game they can certainly win. There's no doubt about it. But this game is up to Edmonton. I mean, the rest of this series, this Stanley Cup, to me, these next two games, if it goes to 2 games, it's about the Edmonton Oilers.
Well, so I agree with you. Like, I think Florida, so the series to me has been Florida just coming out, getting leads, and then trying to hang on to them. And not like getting game tied and going overtime. Now, I know they tied the one that they lost in Florida with about 20 seconds to go. But to me, it's been Florida comes out, plays well. Even Edmonton plays well, but then Florida has predominantly gotten the first goal.
Yeah.
And then it goes from there, right? I think Edmonton, sadly to say, because you never want to be that team, is the team that plays best when they're down, when there's some. But I thought last game, and I know everybody focuses on goaltending, or Connor McDavid has 1 goal, and is he going to score more goals as opposed to just set him up? But to me, I thought what got exposed last game was Edmonton's defense. I thought the Nurse and the Wallman and not just Marchand off the break, but I just thought their defense got exposed. There wasn't a lot of room out there. Like I saw a lot of guys just doing things that it was the only thing they could do. So they'd gain the zone, and it would just go not even into the corner they gained the zone in, but the opposite corner, because that was the only thing that was open, and they had somebody on them. There wasn't a lot of space out there and stuff. So I think Edmonton's defense cost them that last game. The defensemen, I mean themselves.
Yeah.
So, I mean, this is interesting, right? Because I'm not out on the Edmonton Oilers. I think if this series has proven anything, if they can get anything to overtime in close games, they're money, right? Like they're okay. And Florida has to find that. But to close out a cup is interesting. So I'm kind of on the fence tonight. I think Florida comes out and gets another lead. Or maybe, I don't know, Cam. I think this has been one of the best Stanley Cup finals I've seen in years. It's so evenly matched, and I think it's because it's a rematch. I think the Edmonton Oilers know what it takes and learned from last year and don't have these lulls where they give up 4 goals and stuff like that. And they've proven that they can score 1, 2, 3, 4 goals real quick. But to me, this is you're right. It's all about Edmonton. Edmonton has to have their best game of the playoffs, not just this series, the best game of the playoffs. Because Florida's going to come, and they're just going to be relentless, because you nailed it on the head.
That's exactly right.
Florida might be as skilled as Edmonton, but they are the most consistent team in the playoffs, and that's why they've gotten this far.
They roll, and they keep coming, and they are relentless.
The
and
one thing I do know,
stop. They don't stop. That's
the one thing I do know is Florida's going to look like Florida. And it's all about, as you said, what Edmonton can
It's about Edmonton. Call the Boston Pizza Jets at Noon Hockey Hotline, open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Dig into the new Triple Pep Pizza and Double Trouble Nachos. Available now only at Boston Pizza. The number 1 caller on Friday, if you call and give us a great take, 204-780-6800, you'll be awarded a $50 gift certificate to Boston Pizza on Friday. Still to come on the show, hey, Canada has its Olympic group stage. We'll discuss that. And as the show rolls on, there's an absolutely fantastic article in the New York Times. I think it might be a little too cynical for my taste, but it's definitely worth of a discussion about the cost increase of being a sports fan in North America and across the world. I want to make sure that we discuss this, and I want to get your thoughts on it too as well. Don't go anywhere. How much you think it is, Jim?
Look,
to be a sports
I thought
fan
it
on
would
average.
be like to watch every game.
Yeah.
I thought it would be about $1,000.
Now, it's when you put all the streaming together to watch every major sport, it's shocking. We'll keep going. Don't go anywhere.
Jim Toth on 680 CJOB.
Well, Canada's Olympic group stage has been set. Canada will be playing Czechia, Switzerland, and France in the group stage of the Olympics. So you're saying there's a
chance. I think half of Canada, and I don't know which half, would see that group and go, just walk us to the next round. And I say, not so fast. Watch out for France.
The Swiss have some good players.
Wow.
Czechia's got...
Give me fuel, give me fire. Give me Nito Niederreiter will be there.
Czechs have elite talent. There's no doubt about that.
Czechs will be tough,
but listen, Canada goes into the group stage.
Watch out for France.
Heavily favorite.
Look what happened at the World Championships. Yeah. They didn't take their bags to face Ehlers.
How costly.
And Ehlers got on the plane, I heard, on the way back to that town and said, did you guys not pack?
How costly is it to be a sports fan in North America? I'll tell you after this. Noon brought to you by Wash Method Car Wash, 690 St. Anne's Road. VIP take on the text line to win a VIP car wash from our good friends at Wash Method, 204-780-6868. We'll announce the winner later on in the program as we're coming at you live from the Boston Pizza Studio. Try the new Triple Pep Pizza only at Boston Pizza.
Triple Pep.
And while you're at it, download the Jets and Noon podcast free now on Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever you find your favorite podcasts. Exclusive Jets talk and content only found there. And take Jets and Noon wherever you go and continue the conversation whenever you want. Today we discussed what player retired that made us feel old. Well, I kind of gave players that haven't retired yet but are getting close. And Jim had his pick, and Tyson also, who is, what is he, like 14 or something like that? Tyson?
Yeah.
think he's 14.
So the player that made him feel old was Macklin Celebrini when he made the NHL.
It was when Derek Jeter.
Man, I feel old. Celebrini made the show.
It's when Derek Jeter retired. That's what really hit him hard.
Hey, by the way, it's Nikita Kucherov's birthday.
Oh, happy birthday, Nikita Kucherov.
You know how I feel.
Happy birthday. Yeah.
Should have won the Hart last year. Also, Ken Wiebe and his
What about
voting.
this year?
Well, I have him higher than, well, I was just going to say Ken Wiebe said he had him 4th. And I was like, not on my watch, Weber. Let's bump him up a bit. But Weber votes, right? So.
Oh, yeah, Weber's got to vote. That's right.
So he is anti-Cooch, too.
He hates Cooch. I'm not going to put words in Ken Wiebe's mouth.
No, not today.
Not today. Not today.
No, I was interested. I watched a clip from Winnipeg Sports Talk, and Weber was on there and ranking his and why he did vote Hellebuck first overall. And this is what's lost in this, right? Is that 2.00 goals against average. He was one stat shy of the quadruple. Like, he missed out on the save percentage by 0.01. Stolarz had a .01 higher save percentage, but he only played 33 games compared to 63 that Hellebuck played.
Well,
so if Stolarz would have played 50 games, he would have had the quadruple.
Do you think with the Hart Trophy you have to put together like stellar seasons in a row? Like, you can't just have one miracle season come out of
Taylor
nowhere?
Hall. Was Taylor Hall the Hart Trophy winner that year? I don't know.
Yeah, he was, yeah.
I think you can have a year where I do think this weighs into it, though. Like, Zach Rowinski, to me, this is the debate that I think you're asking about the Hart. Like, Cale Makar is Cale Makar, year in, year out. Zach Rowinski finished second in the Norris. But for him to have it, like, he's an all-star defenseman in my mind.
Yeah.
But to have that sensational of a year on a non-playoff team and everything that went in and around Columbus this year, I don't know. Like, I don't get a vote. I'm not part of the Professional Hockey Writers Association, but
Me neither.
Things like that I would lean towards, right? I know Cale Makar is probably going to win another 4.
Yeah.
It doesn't take away from the year he had. I'm not trying to say Makar wasn't worthy, but when a player like Rowinski has this kind of a year, I just go, that's exceptional because he's never done it before.
No doubt about that. No, I think,
and maybe the Hart's that way too.
I see. Again, I don't have a vote. I don't know where I would go, but I would have a real. You know what? I'd sit in my rocking chair with a glass of scotch and a cigar, and I'd ponder who I would vote for, Rowinski or Cale Makar. It'd be a real honest discussion, and I need to do that more often. I need to sit there with a.
You should do that every night.
I should be doing that every night.
Yeah,
you're right about that.
Don't leave Dad. He's in his dad time.
He's
pondering.
Dad needs his alone time, or he's going to go crazy.
But I wonder about the Hart. Like, where would you rank him? Like I said earlier in the year, Hellebuck is a Hart finalist in my mind because no other position, defenseman or forward, has dominated their position to the tune of Hellebuck.
Well, I would have.
That's what escalated him from Vezina to Hart in my mind. There's 3 or 4 forwards that could have won the Hart. There's 3 or 4 defensemen who could win the Norris, or there's only one goalie that was going to win the Vezina this year.
Well, I put Nikita Kucherov over Leon Draisaitl just because I look at Edmonton without Draisaitl versus Nikita Kucherov, the Tampa without Nikita Kucherov, and I think that those are 2 different stories. Not to say that just because he plays for Connor McDavid that automatically he has points taken away from him in terms of Hart voting. Not necessarily, but I just see that as a much higher difference with Nikita Kucherov off of Tampa. I would have voted for Connor Hellebuck, I
would have too, just because that. Just the same as if there was a defenseman that put up 153 points and was solid defensively, I'd be like, okay, he's so dominant over the rest of his field at his position, he needs to be up for the Hart as well.
Yeah.
And that's where I found Hellebuck. But I'll say this, and our friend who thinks not cheering for the Oilers is anti-Canadian, he's probably going to think I'm anti-Canadian again.
Yeah, you hate Canada.
I have Kucherov ahead of McKinnon.
Yeah.
I have Draisaitl, Hellebuck, and Kucherov in the top 3. And I don't get a vote, so I'll let the voters sort it out. But I think McKinnon had a great year. He was just as good as everybody else. But on that team before the Rantanen trade, there's a lot of things that could get done without him. I put a lot of emphasis on, and not everybody does, if you take the player off the team, where's the team? And I keep coming back to you take Kucherov off that Tampa Bay team. And yes, you have Point and Gensel had a great year. Hagel had a phenomenal year and really elevated his game this year.
Andre Vasilevsky.
But it all goes around Kucherov. He led the league in scoring again. And I think Tampa Bay struggles to make the playoffs without Kucherov. I think Colorado and Edmonton make the playoffs without Draisaitl or McKinnon.
Miss your chance. Get your thoughts on the show today. Call the Boston Pizza Jets at noon hotline, open 24/7, 204-780-6800. Dig into the new triple pep pizza and double trouble nachos, available now only at Boston Pizza. Hey, that number one caller who calls the line, 204-780-6800, to win a $50 gift card to Boston Pizza. Jim, what is the cost of being a sports fan in today's age?
So you're talking about watching, right?
So
I go through this with my house. I get the NFL Sunday ticket. I get the NHL Center Ice package.
How much do you think that you spend personally? Like everything altogether. I'm talking cable packages. I'm talking streaming services.
So I get Sports Illustrated. I get the hockey news. I get the NHL Network. And I get
like
the
your
NFL
fantasy,
Network.
Do you put money in on fantasy too? Does that cost? Okay, so
I play,
add that all up in there too.
And I play and I play fantasy hockey, fantasy baseball, and fantasy football times 3 with the football.
Yeah,
because I keep getting asked, and I can't say no.
Oh, I say no every time.
Yeah, you're lucky.
I have no time for that.
I have said no to a couple now because I have 3 of them. And because my spouse says, "Are you 14? Can you stop spending money on this?"
Yeah.
But to be honest with you, it's not a big write-off, but you can, you can write that off. You need the hockey news, right?
Yeah.
That's how we come up with stories and stuff. And Center Ice, you got to watch the games. The problem is I watch Jets games and it's really hard. So I'm usually watching a divisional game, Dallas, Colorado, for the third period because of life, right? We have kids, they got to play hockey and stuff. So I would say, I think I spend probably $500 to $600 a year on subscriptions and being able to watch what we need to watch.
So
and people are laughing at that at home, Cam, quickly, but we do need to watch the National Hockey League. Like we need to.
I do need it.
Not just the Jets. We need to keep track of everything and stuff. Now, I don't cover the NFL, so that's a luxury. Mm-hmm. That's not a job thing. But the hockey news and things like that are
luxury.
We get
no, but
so I would say $500 to $600 on Center Ice.
And would you include tickets to go into games? I know you take your son to some games.
We went to 2 games this year. I bought 2 tickets. So
would you include that in jerseys, all that stuff? I know you bought your other boys some Astros stuff.
I don't.
You don't. Well, I think you have to add it in here because this is what.
Buying your son Astros stuff, that's just a blessing.
That's free. Oh yeah,
that's just a given right to passage.
The author of this article in the New York Times name is June Lee, and he's previously covered sports for ESPN, Bleacher Report, and the Washington Post does his own thing independently now. And the article is titled, "That's How Much It Costs to Be a Sports Fan Now." And he gives the number, and I'll give you the number in just a second here. But I believe this article is a little too cynical for me, but I think that it's striking the right nerve with myself and probably anybody who goes in. If you want to read the article, I urge you to go to my X account. It's Cam at
really
noon.
Good piece.
It's a really good piece, and I still think it's a little too cynical. I think that Mr. Lee strikes too much of a disintegrating community. Sports doesn't care about the fan. They're not about nurturing, the civic duty of sports and professional sports and all that. I'm not as cynical, but I'm not taking as cynical of a take as I believe this author is in this article. But I do believe in a lot of what he's writing down. And he says in the article, and I think this is the biggest takeaway from the message he's trying to convey, is fandom isn't being nurtured anymore. It's being mined. He combined all he says that he subscribes because it's what he does, right? Just as you were talking about, this is what he does. He subscribes everything. YouTube TV, MLB.TV, NBA League Pass.
I forgot I do get an MLB too.
NFL Sunday. I think it's higher than what you said. NFL Sunday Ticket, Peacock, Apple TV Plus. Do you watch baseball on Apple TV?
I used to. I let that
had to go. Okay, so Max, HBO Max, Amazon Prime, Paramount, all that stuff. Combined,
Amazon I do have.
Yeah, combined $2,600 US, over $2,600 US a year.
For subscriptions?
Based on all those subscriptions. And he also said to watch, and he's a Boston native, he's a big Boston sports fan, says to watch the Red Sox and the Yankees, he would also had to fork over an additional $20 a month because that rivalry is also put under a blackout. It's owned independently, and it would cost another $99.99 a month to access those games. They're under like a premium subscription to watch the Red Sox play the Yankees. The author, June Lee, also goes on to say, from 1999 to 2020, the average price of a seat across all sports rose roughly twice as fast as overall consumer prices and increased 19.5% between May 2023 and May 2025 alone. It goes on to say that as a hardcore Boston fan, back in 2004 would spend on average about $1,300 to follow his or her favorite team. That would include tickets, television access, and merchandise. Today, 21 years later, it's crazy to think that 2004 is 21 years ago. That boggles my mind. Talk about feeling old. But that number is now almost $4,500. A 262% jump. And that includes all access to watch that team, just one team, all access to watch them on television, merchandise, and on an average amount that a sports fan spends on tickets to go to games every single year. And so they also present some options in the article about like, the U.S. government taking over some of the basic broadcast networks like ABC, NBC, CBC, and creating a internet access and an app that you can access, big major sports events, so that's not lost in sort of this blackout. But why? There's a great point here, because we hear about this all the time. Now, I like the games on Prime. I do, and I'm not going to sit here and say that I don't. I like just put on my PlayStation, boom, 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 going on to Prime, games on like that. Right. And if I don't have a cable package, so it's a lot easier for me to watch games just on Prime. Right. I appreciate that. And also, before we get into this, all these games are available for free here on 680 CJOB streaming live Jets games. So you can always fall back on that.
Well, and this is the point of the subscriptions is between my 13-year-old's minor hockey. And so predominantly how it works is I'll take him to practices or games when there's not a Jets game.
Yeah.
And when there is, I'm at home watching the game and taking my notes and listening on 680 CJOB. So that's the point, right? Like 4.5 years ago, I watched every game. It wasn't a problem. And he had hockey on the weekends and stuff like that. So the thing that bothers me now, like I'll get the NFL package to watch the Bears games because the Bears aren't very good. They're never on prime time, maybe 3 times a year. But of 16 games, I see maybe 7 Bears games, right? Mm-hmm. Like I'm just life, but you're paying for that. That's an interesting article because I don't include the T-shirts or the jerseys. Like both kids are Jets fans. My other son has everything. Like he has a Gaudreau jersey, he has a Bedard jersey, and these are Christmas gifts or birthday gifts. Like he loves hockey, he loves special players, and he's got a McDavid jersey. And he's not allowed to wear inside.
Hold on 1 second, but you don't have to spend that that almost $4,800, right?
Yeah,
it's the number that strikes at me is that $2,600 to watch all the leagues and all the North American.
So that's the one that sticks out to me.
That's the one that sticks out. Almost over $2,600 USD.
We're not unlike any other family. What game or two should we take them to this year?
Yeah.
And then we save and we go, right? Like we don't have season tickets and we don't, with his schedule, he can't go to a lot, but we're like every other family. We just don't sit down and go, we'll take them to the game this weekend. We have to plan it and it costs money, right? So I don't include that, but I do include like the subscriptions and the everything else. And that's why I'm surprised, because when you add it up, like I think I spend more. I think between the fantasy leagues and and people might laugh at this, but the fantasy leagues helps me in my job. Mm-hmm. And I discovered this years ago.
Oh, with players. Oh, yeah.
When it comes to lines and stuff. Because, if you're spending 10 minutes looking for a defenseman because your got injured, you go through lineups and you learn names and who's in the minor systems real quick. Like it actually helps you.
Yeah.
You're right. Like I probably spend $1,000 a year because I forgot about the MLB package, and that's not for work. That's to watch Astros games, which again should be free because they're the greatest team on the planet. But it's interesting, and I wonder what listeners out there do and if they do that. So that's what the article is fascinating to me, Cam, is if you wanted to watch every single game of every pro sports league, what would that cost? And you're saying $2,600.
Yeah, USD, and this is based out of Boston. Like, because when you put everything together, I think that's an accurate number. I mean, this is in the New York Times.
It's actually low if you're asking me. Like, if you're including EPL and NFL and MLB, NBA and NHL, and then you add in the
it's expensive. And my takeaway from this is that this isn't going to change. This is not going anywhere. This is good for radio. Yeah. Honest to God, that's what I look from this. Is like, this is good for radio because these blackouts are not going anymore. Not going anywhere. In fact, they're going to become more and more prevalent. Where this one's going to be on this streaming service. This game's going to be on this streaming service. I still think there's going to be the regional sales, but for the most part, just get used to this.
Well, and to be honest with you,
listen to the games on CJOB, man. That's what I'm saying.
The times, because of our schedule, when I do take him to practice, I sit in the car during his practice and listen to the games and go inside and watch during the intermission. I listen to Edmonds and Clinton and listen that way. So it's very valuable, but I'm not surprised by that price.
We'll be right back. This is a great discussion. Everybody just take a second, try and think about how much you spend and your thoughts on this, about how much it really costs to, follow the Jets. And I also want to add this too. I don't think that this is necessarily what it's like in Winnipeg. I mean, look at the $10 whiteout street parties. Like, we're talking about, civic duty
Boston
and stuff like that.
Boston is an expensive city.
Yeah,
front to back.
Like, look at Bomber games and Jets games and stuff like that. The Jets are on the lower end of the cost in the National Hockey League and Canadian markets. And the Jets are operated differently. It's not all 100% a for-profit enterprise here with the Jets. I don't believe that for a second. Well, so I think things are different here, but send us a text, 204-780-6868. Keep texting about this topic, your cost of being a Jets fan, and we'll discuss this tomorrow as well.
Yeah, I do know this quickly. I want to know what you spend to watch.
Yeah.
And stuff. That's interesting to me. So send us a text, 780-6868, what you think you spend, and then find out tonight. We'll revisit this with you all tomorrow.
Congratulations also to our VIP texter winning the car wash from my good friends at Wash Method, 690 St. Anne's Road. Here's the winning text from Jay, just written here in Jay. Jay says, well, Stanley Cup Game 6, do I wish it was the Jets, of course, but like the recent election, it's time to pick country over party or home team. Not easily, especially given the Alberta Separatists resume selling U.S. alcohol. Can you imagine the rhetoric if the Panthers win? Go Edmonton. Well, Jay, I don't agree with you. And I can't imagine the rhetoric if the Panthers win because I don't think there will be any. But I appreciate the text message, and it was good enough to win a VIP car wash from my good friends at Wash Method. Jim Toth will take you all the way until 2 o'clock. Thank you very much, Jeffrey Fortier, for producing the show. That's it for me. Back same time tomorrow. See ya.